Is this thing on? Oh, bloody hell, you lot. Thank you out there. Anyhow, I'm JP Armstrong, here on behalf of Real Shit Baseball and the Real Shit Network. We are excited to present to you the first RSN Special of the 2018 off-season. Don't adjust your device, mate. We're coming to you live in both audio and video format for the very first time to make up for our slow off-season of bonus content. The purpose of this RSN Special is to preview all 16 RS teams as they stand prior to the 2018 RS Draft, scheduled for this Sunday, March 25th at 8 Central Time in the evening. Our goal is to analyze the starting players for each team in the National and American Leagues and their system as a whole. We will look deeper and identify the top 3 needs we found each team in the league needs headed into the draft this Sunday. We should go ahead and say, these aren't lineups approved by each RS manager, these are the opinions of the RSN team and should be seen as general guidelines and not as gold. After we preview each team, we'll take a look at the top free agents available in the auction draft and predict where they'll be playing in 2018. Without any further ado, I'd like to jump right into our first team, the team who finished at the bottom of the standings this past season, the Giants of San Francisco. Now, looking at the diamond in San Francisco, you can see obvious holes at shortstop and in the outfield. The Giants did a great job adding players for the future this offseason, but how much can they produce this year? Youngsters like Victor Robles, Miguel Andújar, and Alex Verdugo predict to be long-term answers for the G-Men, but until then, there's going to need to be a passage of time, along with a fair bit of luck to benefit Giants fans and management. The starting rotation is anchored by Kenta Maeda, Tawan Walker, and Dan Straley. The best reliever in their pen is Swing Huan Oh. On the diamond, GM Clay Carver's looking for the outfield for Adam Duvall to lead this system offensively. Back to time passing though, the crown jewel of this system is at number 1 on the prospect list. Bo Bichette is a top 10 prospect across the game and looks to be a major contributor for San Francisco whenever he comes around. The Giants got to be hoping that that's this year, if not first thing next year. Moving on, we've got the next team, and for the first time in history, an RS franchise has moved cities without a management overhaul. At the root of this move is GM Thomas Tomatoes, who has shifted the Padres from San Diego to the Colorado Rockies. And with one shift comes many, and the Rockies appear ready to scrape the top of the NL for the first time in a long time. However, Colorado is a very full team. The bench is full, the field is full, the bullpen is full, and the prospect system is full. So what is there to add? Well, frontline starter to start. While Ivan Nova's shown flashes of brilliance in the past, he is the elder statesman in a widely unproven crop of starters. Wade Davis and Brad Brock look to lead the bullpen to success for GM Tomatoes, and Eugenio Suarez, Carlos Santana, and Ender Encharte are the bats to look out for in the Rockies system. The success of the youth in the Rockies system is crucial to their performance, as they've got several young players whose performance could well be what the team's season hinges on. Oakland's got a good deal of money to spend and a good deal of talent to build upon. Seems like a recipe for success, right? Well, GM Paul Little hopes so as he returns to the helm of the Athletics. Oakland have perhaps the most deep pitching rotation in the entire league, fronted by 2 no-doubt number 1s in Justin Verlander and Madison Bumgarner. Anthony Rizzo, returns to first base despite a myriad of trade rumors through the winter and will lead the dangerous A's bats into battle. One position the Athletics may need to shore up is shortstop, where Ahmed Rosario is currently slotted. A more proven option may be beneficial for the Pacaders. A catcher is also needed by the Athletics, and sense of general depth will also serve GM well. The A's made it close. They made it clear early in this close offseason they're proud of their depth in the minors, and contributions from Kyle Tucker, Kobe Allen, and the like would surely be welcome as the A's are looking to surge back to the top of the NL after a low finish last year. Now, Washington is a team with holes to fill and the money to do it. GM Max Johnson has wrestled the title of most enigmatic manager away from the likes of Pirates GM Matt Brennan and Oakland GM Little in the past 2 seasons, and only completed 1 swap this off-season. With it, the Nationals filled even more holes than they had from the previous year, adding players such as Ian Kinsler and Cole Hamels to their already deep rotation. This key strength is the staff, and is led by Carlos Martinez. 8 strong starters is a rarity in this league, and the Nationals will have to focus on touching up their bat should they hope to compete on a broad scale this season. The prospect system in Washington features jewels nearly untouchable by any other system now. Eloy Jimenez will join the Major League team this season, though Nick Senzel and Forrest Whitley could also make impacts. Production from these young players is key to a successful season. GM Johnson should focus, in our opinion, on corner infielders and on bullpen depth to find success in the draft. The hits keep coming for the Pittsburgh Pirates, yeah? GM Matt Brennan is typically keen to 1 or 2 blockbusters per off-season, and the late addition of Bryce Harper fits the bill undoubtedly. Harper will join a host of new players as starters in Pittsburgh this season. The only returning starter is first baseman Jay Bruce, who will have a new crew behind him as the captain of the ship. Steven Strasburg leads the way for the pitchers, which certainly could use depth both in terms of starters and relievers. The Pirates' prospect system is not completely devoid of talent, as top starters Riley Pint and Jose Albertos could provide quality options from within, whenever they're ready to contribute, that is. St. Louis has got a team to be proud of. The offensive depth of the Cardinals is rivaled only by a select few teams in the league, and gives GM Alex Rhodes a reason to bear his famous amphibian's grin. The biggest need for the Redbirds is more starting pitching depth, or the hope for one or more of their highly touted prospects to rise through the ranks and unseat one of those starters who are already entrenched in the rotation. Kyle Hendricks and Aaron Nola are at the top of the pitching pile, and Brad Hand looks to do the job from the bullpen. Get it? Hand job? Ha ha ha! Chris Bryant, Paul Goldschmidt, Carlos Correa, Cody Bellinger, and more are the offensive boppers the Cardinals have got. What can derail the Redbirds this season? GM Rhodes hopes nothing. He's going to make sure of it in the draft, one would imagine. GM Mike McKee has quietly built a quality team in the Northwest. The range of talent and skill sets displayed by the Mariners is impressive. The face on the franchise, Clayton Kershaw, sits atop the rotation in Seattle and is backed up by Zach Greinke, Chase Anderson, and Dylan Bundy. Kershaw needs no introduction. His status as elite is never in question. Elvis Andrus, Mike Moustakas, Whit Merrifield, and Ryan Brown return to the offense, and the Mariners are ready for business. The matters on the agenda for Seattle include a necessary addition of depth across the team. Batters? Yes. Pitchers? Yes. Prospects? Yes. If you can think of it, the Mariners need it. But they've got more than enough cash to acquire it. The M's may end up being a trendy pick for success in the preseason power poll yet to come. GM Tyler Jackson has an offense to be jealous of for sure. Charlie Blackmon? Oh yeah. Joey Votto? Check. Trey Turner? Aaron Judge? All rise. The Rays took time to amass a serious collection of boppers for the Floridian fans, and the staff is no joke either. Carlos Carrasco and Masahiro Tanaka return to anchor the group, although additions Michael Fulmer and Mike Minor, as well as youngsters Luis Gohara, Jack Flaherty, and Reynaldo Lopez, all make for one of the most impressive pitching staffs in the league. The most pressing need for Tampa, though, is more reliable third base option, although bullpen depth is also an issue to address for Jackson. The shockingly slim prospect system will be surely replenished in June's draft to serve as the metaphorical Viagra to Jackson's ever-present prospect boner. We hope that the blood is flowing still, Big Jack Daddy. Boston is a team with few holes and yet needs to be met. Catcher appears to be the most prevalent one, although another starting pitcher or top-flight reliever could be equally desired by GM Alex Anderson. AA has done his damage quietly this season, coming away with the number 5 overall pick in the summer's minor league draft. Prospects are certainly an area of concern in Boston, but one which is not in question is the starting rotation. Chris Sale leads a talented crop of arms, including Trevor Bauer, Garrett Cole, and Zach Godley. On the diamond, Francisco Lindor looks to lead the crew for the second year running, although new additions Eric Hosmer and Adam Eaton will provide more than enough stats to fill the sheet for the Sox. Arizona have reshaped their team in recent weeks, adding Yu Darvish to head up the rotation in the desert. Jake Arrieta, Marcus Stroman, Tanner Roark, and bloody hell, you can read the names there. He's got a lot of good pitchers, yeah? He could probably use some of the back-end starters to stack up and produce, or to seek out another starter in the draft, though. Offensively, the Snakes need some depth, and definitely have a hole behind the plate. Holes are easy to make in sand, though, right? Prospect-wise, the D-backs have Austin Riley at third base and Chance Adams on the mound as the most impressive of the bunch. Production from Josh Donaldson equal to his second-half output from last season is crucial to the Snakes' reascent to the top of the ranks in 2018. Well, if it isn't Mr. First Round or Bust, GM Drew Wheeler has sure got a hard-on for first roundies, done he? Well, lucky for us GMs, there's none to be had in the draft, so Wheeler had better pay some attention to his pitching staff. Gio Gonzalez and Jose Barrios lead a list of battered and broken names that would make a dyslexic man blush. The bullpen isn't much better either, and needs some serious work. Prospects are non-existent, although the fields will fill the farm from the top of the class in the summer. On the bright side, though, the only legitimate hole the Phillies have offensively is behind the dish, and catcher seems to be a pretty deep position in the draft. Even following a serious blow to the bats as Justin Turner went down with a wrist injury this week, Philadelphia slots in Kyle Seager to the hot corner. Chip chip, no issues there, huh? Lucky prick that Wheeler is. Mike Trout, Jose Altuve, Giancarlo Stanton, Seagers? Hoskins? Oh, piss off, you wanker. First-year manager Matt Storr. Oh, hell, you know his name. He's new here. He's fitting in pretty good so far, and he's got a pretty relatively full team looking ahead to his first RS draft. Christian Yelich is going to lead the Tigers from center field this season. This impressive young outfielder is going to be joined by DJ LeMahieu, whose home run numbers are welcome to the Tigers lineup. The bullpen is also impressive, as GM Stormtrooper has also added Roberto Osuna, Chris Davinsky, AJ Ramos, and more over the winter. The major holes to fill include third base and shortstop, where more sure things options are likely desired. Starting pitching depth could also benefit a young staff of the Tigers' arms. Finally, prospects more close to the major leagues could benefit this young team. Atlanta finished on top of the NL last season, and for good reason. Just look at the screen, right? Luis Severino heads up one of the most impressive rotations in all of real shit. Ray, Castillo, Gray, Giolito, Needle, you get it. Jose Ramirez blew up last season as pure dynamite. We can expect a lot more explosions this year. Anthony Rendon and Yasiel Puig will also be counted on to do big things for the Braves this season, though newcomer Jose Abreu may be the biggest bat in the team's lineup. What's needed? Depth, baby, depth. A few more solid pitchers here and there, and a catcher are all good things for the Braves to focus on. But wait a tick, what's that name down there? I can't quite make it. Ah, yes, you read right too, it's Ronnie Acuna. The Braves' most needed thing this season is perhaps the passage of time before Big Daddy Ron comes and sticks his wang down baseball's throat. I'm not ready for the wang, boys. I'm not prepared. GM Kyle Wheeler came back to the league and casually finished in third place after a year off. Not bad, huh? The Yankees team is a colourful bunch, with only a few holes to fill in the draft. Most needed depth is at started pitching. Behind his 5 names listed, GM Wheeler doesn't have much to write home about other than prospect Sheffield, who seems to be a year or so away still. Chris Archer and his 700,000 strikeouts is certainly a good start, although more solid options are certainly desired from Wheeler. A more set outfield option would also benefit the Bombers, who could have a more set plan than super utility player Eduardo Nunez or Carlos Gonzalez patrolling the field. Finally, the Yankees are in need of a youthful injection of fun. They need some youngins on these bench, on the lineup, on the mound. They just need to add some youth. The eventual additions of world-beating prospects Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Fernando Tatis Jr. will help with this. The Yankees are still in a good spot after finishing third in 2017. I gotta warn you not to barf all over your device when you see this screen. It's real, though. Adding Freddie Freeman and Alex Bregman to a team makes anyone impressive, but this bunch, stupid. Nolan Arenado, George Springer, Mookie Betts, JD Martinez, Miguel Sano, and more are all going to be flittering in and out of the lineup daily in Kansas City. Max Scherzer, Corey Kluber, and Thor on top of the list at starting pitcher, and GM Mike Alessi is certainly pleased with this list. Needs are limited for the Royals, but include depth positioning primarily. A few relievers wouldn't hurt, but a few more infielders and a catcher are all good things to expect Alessi to end up with in the draft. Finally, a more balanced prospect system could benefit the Royals as they are looking slim after an off-season and a season prior of busyness and promotion. And finally, the evil empire of RS. GM Jonathan Mayle has done what seems impossible, 2 championships in a row. After the victory, he declared his intentions to rebuild his roster from the ground up, axe them all, burn it down, move off his championship pieces in favor of... Oh, bloody hell, he's gone and gotten good players again, hasn't he? Well, the pitching staff is ridiculous as usual, with 10 starters who could well be in the top 3 of any other team in the league, as deep as number 10 for the Jays. The bats in Toronto could use a little shoring up, so look for Mayle to shop through the bins of bats while a hellstorm occurs across the market at the pitching aisles. And, though he shouldn't, we'd be amiss not to expect Mayle to get starting pitchers in the draft too. It's just what he does. Look for Brian Dozier, the old sheriff, Nelson Cruz, and Marcelo Zuna to lead the Jays back to what is likely to be another playoff appearance for Jonathan Mayle and the Evil Empire. Woo! Hope you're not nodding off, mate. We've wrapped up our looks at the 16 RS teams as they sit at the moment. We looked at their needs in the draft, but who's going to be available to fill them needs? We've chosen 5 to 10 of each position, and we're going to predict where they end up and fill some of these holes that our teams have currently got. Now, before you go off crying and whining and whimpering, this isn't a set thing. This isn't some kind of suggestion. This is just our predictions based on the needs we found. So, don't feel bad if you don't bid big and make our projections come true. We're just giving you our thoughts. So, let's dive into catchers, shall we? The cream of the catching crop will include Buster Posey, Evan Gattis, Michael Zunino, Yadier Molina, and Brian McCann. Our RSN staff predict that the Oakland Athletics will flex their financial muscles and come away with Buster Posey. We think the Red Sox will be bringing Evan Gattis home, the Braves will want big O Zunino behind the dish, the Phillies will take Yadier Molina, and the Snakes will have McCann slither on home to the desert. Catcher's got a lot of teams worried and has a lot of surprising depth, so don't be surprised to see a great many take it in this draft. There's some powerful boys in the first ranks. Edwin Encarnacion, Will Myers, Ian Desmond, Lucas Duda, and Kendrys Morales are the players that we see being the highest paid of the lot. We're thinking that Washington's going to fill a big hole with a big old boy in E.E. The Nats, you'll recall, don't have a first baseman on roster as current. We think that the Yankees will reach out to sign Will Myers, and we're banking on Desmond in Seattle and Duda in Pittsburgh. We also think Morales will make his way to Arizona. At the Keystone, there's some nifty names and some solid skill sets to be had. We're looking toward Matt Carpenter, Cesar Hernandez, Neil Walker, Josh Harrison, and Devin Travis. Our predictions show Toronto is a favorite to reunite with Matt Carpenter. We think the Pirates are also due for a reunion with Cesar Hernandez, even though Rougned Odor seems trenched in that spot in Pittsburgh. We think St. Louis will scoop up Walker to shore up Scope. Say that 5 times fast, yeah? Josh Harrison and his flexibility makes some sense for the Snakes, and we think Travis and Happ seems like a solid platoon at second in Kansas City. The hot corner has some bats to be had in the draft, and a few teams need a boy there badly. We can assume the top of the class will include Todd Frazier, Maikel Franco, Chase Headley, Yangervis Salati, and Matt Davidson. We're guessing the Nationals keep on adding big bats for big contracts and pick up the Todd father for third. We're thinking the Rays are going to fill their biggest hole and add Maikel Franco to go alongside or ahead of J.P. Crawford. We think Headley in Pittsburgh makes sense behind Beltre. Solarte will be another Carpenter-type flexible boy in Toronto, and Davidson is still young enough to hang with the youth movement going on in Detroit with the Tigers. Shortstop is often called the trickiest position to play offensively, but there are several names available in the top half of talent. We're looking at Jean Segura, Addison Russell, Orlando Arcia, Marcus Semien, and Brandon Crawford to make waves at shortstop. We're thinking Oakland ends up with Segura, who's arguably the best middle infielder and available player overall in the draft. Detroit could use a youngster with upside like Russell to build on. San Francisco should take the opportunity to snag a good player while they can fill the spot, and Arcia fits the bill. Marcus Semien would fit well behind Lindor or in a utility spot with the Red Sox, and Crawford and Toronto are due for a reunion, aye Johnny? Outfield has a ton of talent available this year, and we've got a ton of them to look at here. Starling Marte, Billy Hamilton, Yoenis Cespedes, Gregory Polanco, Steven Souza look to be the tippy-top tier players at the position, although other great options can be had, including Dexter Fowler, Mark Trumbo, David Peralta, Carlos Gomez, and Michael Brantley. We can predict Seattle to love some of these Pittsburgh bats and to throw some cash at Marte. Marte is a great outfielder and is another top 5 available talent and would fit great in the Mariners system. It's easy to see the Mariners adding Polanco as well, as he could represent a good value for a young bat. Speedster Hamilton reuniting with New York seems to be a good fit. Cespedes joining the offensive ranks in St. Louis would only add to the Redbird bats and add to the misery of the rest of the NL. Steven Souza would show up the outfield ranks in San Francisco, and we're betting he ends up at McCovey Cove. Fowler would make sense in Toronto, and we're projecting him to end up as a J. GM Frederick Culver reuniting with Mark Trumbo in Atlanta seems like a fair fit. The Red Sox and David Peralta could help one another. One gets money, one gets a job, one gets an outfielder, one fills a spot on the roster. We're thinking the Nationals roll the dice on a healthy Michael Brantley to help man the outfield in Washington. And we think Cargo Light has a big shot at RBIs this season, and we think the Cardinals would jump on it like their name is the Sugar Hill Gang. Relief pitching is a big need across the league, and the big names are coming out to play this offseason. Aroldis Chapman, Brandon Morrow, Hector Neris, Andrew Miller, and more are all available and seek to stand new deals in the offseason, and we've got projections on where they'll sign. Chap Daddy seems a lock to be the best reliever in Washington this season. We can also see the Nationals inking potential Angels closer Ken Bedrosian and White Sox closer Joakim Soria to deals in the draft. Philadelphia also seem primed to take part in the relief market, and we're projecting them to acquire Brandon Morrow and Carl Barraclough in the draft. Boston appear to need another big reliever behind Felipe Rivera, and Neris fits the bill. Andrew Miller going to Pittsburgh seems likely. We predict Oakland to come away with Juris Familia and Kansas City to escape the draft with Mark Melancon. We're thinking the Rays will reunite with Zach Britton on a more team-friendly deal to round out our top 10. The starting pitching market is always nothing short of a bloodbath. We've got a bazillion starters available, and a bazillion and one are needed, which means that roughly 2 billion starters are going to be drafted. So let's dive in. We're thinking old Sharky, Jeff Samardzija, should end up back in the Bronx with the Bombers. Kevin Gausman is young and fits the MO of the Detroit Tigers. Julio Teheran seems to be a fit in the deep staff in Seattle. Atlanta never shy away from adding an arm, and Jake Odorizzi looks to be a target they could acquire. King Felix should be back on his throne in Philadelphia according to our staff, although he's been bashed on the message boards lately. We know that GM Wheeler has a thing for Hernandez, but has been ribbed about him pretty frequently, so if he doesn't end up in Philadelphia, could be another team's blessing or curse. We're thinking Pittsburgh will roll the dice on young starter Tyler Glass now after an impressive spring. Toronto may be looking for a sneaky play like Carlos Rodon in the draft, and we can never, ever count out Jays general manager John Mayall from getting a starter. Will the Red Sox roll the dice on Miles Nicholas? We'd like to think so. Zach Davies in St. Louis seem like a good fit, and we can project Colin McHugh to toe the mound in Colorado this season. Oh, well finally we just have one more player to look at. Shohei Ohtani. The name alone has brought a storm of hellfire to the league this season and appears to be an impact player to watch for the future. Now, we could use this time to bicker about his status and his availability in the draft, and we can predict one of 4 teams will likely take him home if, and that's a big if, he's available in the draft Sunday. Should he be available, we're betting on Oakland, Toronto, Seattle, and Washington as his top suitors should he be available. This is not saying he will be available. This is not saying they are projecting him to be available. This is saying nothing more than if. If it is a possibility, these are the teams we project. Should I repeat myself, or do you understand? I take you just said we understand. I hope you did. Go ahead and say it now if you didn't. Thank you. Well, I've yapped on long enough. I can't thank you enough for listening, and hope you've enjoyed your time listening here to this RSN special. And if you like what you hear, you want to discuss any of the content therein that we've talked here, just visit the Real Shit Off-Season message board and get the discussion going. We love hearing from you, so get in on the action ASAP. All the RSN staff, for Commissioner Fred Culver, for Deputy Commissioner Drew Wheeler, I am JP Thongstrong. Cheerio and so long. We will see you at the draft this Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.